so my jurisdiction, does it cover the other side of what, the mainland?
Right.
All of Ottawa County. So my office has jurisdiction anywhere in Ottawa County. So from Fostoria Road to Marblehead, and from the Sandusky County line to Canada.
So is there any effort on Christmas in July to sit on the other side and prevent people from coming?
How do I prevent people from coming?
If they're-
Everybody wants people to come here. That's the goal, is to come to Put-in-Bay, is what I understand. Why should we stop people from coming? How do I stop people from coming? What do I stop from coming? Buses? And if I stop people on buses, what's my reasoning for doing that? So that's the problem. And that's the dilemma we reach quite often. And can you give me 1 second, please? Let me do a little presentation, and I'll take my questions from anyone. So from the sheriff's office perspective, the chief's talking about cameras. I'm not familiar with that camera system whatsoever. We utilize cameras on the mainland. They're called flock cameras, and we're tied into this camera system nationwide. And I'll give you a little heads up on this. Someone asked about the information, ma'am, I think it was you back there, the data saving. Shortly after I became the sheriff 14 years ago, we had things on our cars that were already there from the prior administration. There were big ugly things on the back of our cars that are called license plate readers. I immediately took them off of our cars because they saved data to the federal government on every license plate that went past. That's ridiculous. That's not what we're here for. We don't save your data. But these cameras that we have, these flock cameras, are through a private sector. They're not saving your data for the federal government. But what they are saving is, and I'll give you a great perspective on this. 3.5 weeks ago, we had a homicide in Ottawa County. We had an 86-year-old man who was shot to death just outside of Port Clinton. He was robbed at his house and shot and killed. And I'm going to give you a brief rundown on this, and please, I'll stand up so you can see me. That's sort of rude for me to sit up here. I apologize for taking a little bit too much time on this, but this is really important to me. So this gentleman gets shot and killed in his home, and our deputies go out. It was some welfare check, somebody found him, and it was a true whodunit. This case should never have been solved. They get there, the gentleman's on the floor, he's dead. We get information that he always has a pistol in his pocket. His pistol's nowhere to be found. We have no shell casings, which tells us that it's not a semi-automatic because it would eject the shell casings, so it's a revolver. What was always in his pocket? A revolver. So we think that maybe he got shot with his own gun. So we've got no other physical evidence. We had DCI, Bureau of Criminal Investigation from the state of Ohio, come and help us do the crime scene. So they do the crime scene investigation, gather any evidence, DNA evidence off of the body, and gather all physical evidence at the scene. That night, our detectives contact local residences, but especially 2 businesses across the street. What do we have in our world today that we didn't used to have? Everyone's got a camera. Business across the street hit a pickup truck that pulled into the driveway. If I start sharing too much, you tell me. I don't want to ruin the prosecution of this case, but I think I'm gonna be all right. Pickup truck pulls in the driveway. People go in the house, they come back out. About 40 minutes later, almost an hour later, they put something in the bed of the pickup truck, and they walk over to the window, which is the window where he's laying on the floor inside that window dead. Then they get back in the truck and they leave. The truck is a different paint job than usual, so it would stand out a little bit. How do you find that truck though? Especially when it's not even from Ottawa County. This is a whodunit. We would never find that truck. Except we knew the truck, what the paint looked like. It hit one of our flock cameras in Port Clinton. So So when it hit the flock camera, same paint job, we're like, okay, that must be our truck. When it went past, it gave us the license plate. Now we know the truck and the license plate. License plate comes back, stolen out of Toledo. So our detectives go to Toledo and talk to the person who reported the license plate stolen. While they're standing there talking to this gentleman about a stolen license plate, they happen to look across the street and there's our truck. The neighbor stole the guy's license plate, came to Ottawa County and committed a murder and a robbery. Within 3 days, these detectives solved that case. Within the 4th day, that person, I won't call him a gentleman, that person was in our jail. He's in there now. His accomplice, who was a prostitute out of Toledo, gets interviewed also. We track her down, and I don't remember how they figured her out. It wasn't through him, I don't remember, but I won't get into that. She's in our jail now too for complicity to robbery and complicity to murder. So they're both in our jail. Had it not been for those flock cameras, we never would have solved that case. That's the benefit of the cameras. As much as we don't want the federal government having our information, tracking us, anything like that, there are benefits, but we try to make sure, you know, it all depends. I'll try to say the saying correctly. You have to weigh the juice from the squeeze. You know, the pros and the cons. But had we not had that, these murderers would have walked free. And the sad part is, Toledo Police is working on it now. We think this guy killed someone else prior to this years ago. So this isn't the guy's first time. So that's just a little hit on the cameras. And I don't know the camera system Chief's looking at, but if it does the same thing, basically, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm gonna have Captain Lice go over some statistical information of what we've done in the township here in the last 6 months, the first 6 months of the year, 7 months of the year. And then he has some information also on this last week during Bash on the Bay. Okay.
My name's Aaron Lice. I'm the captain operations for the sheriff's office. I'm over here often, so I've probably seen you guys around. I'll start with the Bash at the Bay. We had 50 deputies on the ground. We also got assistance from the Ohio Naval Militia. Constant communications with ODNR and some of our other partners, making sure that we had everything in a row. Liquor enforcement, ODNR that here, Coast Guard, everybody we stay in contact with. As far as on the 13th, there were 4 arrests. We assisted on 6 medical calls on the 13th. That was the Luke Bryan show. Crowd on the 14th was a little bit smaller and more reserved, I think is fair to say. We had 1 arrest that night and 2 medical calls. Obviously we partnered well with EMS, Chief Long, easy to work with. We've got a great relationship with them, so that makes our lives easier across the board. And Mercy, Health Partners came in, great job. Their doctors are amazing, great to work with. I think they had between 25 and 28 total medical calls during that concert. People walking in for whatever. The venue outside of in the township, those 2 days, 3 days almost, August 13th through August 15th, Lieutenant Arnold and the other Put Bay deputies had 89 total calls for service. They were busy for sure. One of the things I did want to touch on, and this had come up from, I guess, some questions. I'm a numbers guy, statistic guy. One of the things when we first came in, and Jerome, Sheriff and Chief York, one of the things that we really did that first year in 2023 was went around and asked, what are your concerns, what are your problems? One of the biggest resounding things we had heard was traffic issues in general, including the number of accidents injury accidents, some of those other things that were talked about was, business getting checked at night and those types of things. So, one of the resounding, and it sounds like there's still some complaints on that as well, was traffic in general, in the township. As far as numbers go for those traffics, injury accidents, one of the things we wanted to affect was lowering those, which they've done quite well. From 2024, the first 6 months of 2024 to the first 6 months of 2025, injury accidents are down almost 50%. Anybody will tell you that comes through enforcement, whether that's stop, warning, stop, citation. That's how you get those numbers down. Saturation patrols are sometimes what they're called by other entities, where if you've got a bad intersection, one of the intersections that we have problems with in the county on the far west end is Fostoria Road and State Route 579. That is a nasty intersection. If we get a call there, we assume that it's probably going to be a fatal. That patrolling of that has brought that down, knock on wood, to none, which I can't remember a year by July that we haven't had a fatal accident on that stretch of road. That's a beef up in patrolling, pulling people over, warning citations. That's the only way you're going to work through that. Other than some of the other stats from year to year, I will tell you that Sheriff is big into, and we love doing them, the house checks and business checks. It's something that is important to us. I know it's important to Lieutenant Arnold. He makes it a priority. So businesses, and if we're aware you're out of town, which is available, and you call our dispatch, we set it up, we will have deputies come check your house. Collectively in the county, that since Sheriff has initiated that program, our burglaries are almost non-existent. Knock on wood again. But that's a huge detriment to people that are driving around casing houses and vice versa. If they know that there's a black and gold car sitting in the parking lot or driveway, that makes a difference. So typically if you're on a house watch list for us, your house is going to be checked probably twice in 24 hours at least by a deputy. Businesses, we typically, I know Lieutenant Arnold tries to check at the beginning and at the end of the shift. So those are getting checked before they get opened and after they close. Another huge detriment to somebody that's looking to have ill will to your business or your home. Something else that I wanted to cover quick, I know traffic stops. The first year, we were pretty clear that we were gonna take this slow, I guess you could say, in making those traffic stops and issuing warnings. So in 2023, the first 6 months, there were 35 traffic stops. In 2024, in the first 6 months, there were 105. In 2025, we are up to 320. I can also tell you that those numbers, as far as traffic stops, written citations versus warnings, those numbers parallel the mainland. We keep track of that through the Ohio Collaborative, which I could spend an hour talking about that process and what that requires of us to do. But in 2023, about every 11 traffic stops, a citation was issued. 2024, about every 13 traffic stops, a citation was issued. And in 2025, about every 17 traffic stops, a citation is issued. So I know we get a lot of questions about that, but again, at the end of the day, we're here to preserve life and property. So if we see something, we want to reduce those numbers of fatal injury accidents and even hit skips. A lot of that's visibility and getting out and doing what our deputies are doing here. So other than that, calls for service this year, just the Put-in-Bay division here, or Put-in-Bay deputies here, 6 months, 4,706. Collectively, the sheriff's office total is 8,956 calls for service. not a slam on anybody, but everybody says, well, how many numbers is that? So the Catawba PD in 6 months right now has 1,407 calls for service. The Put-in Bay deputies are at 4,706. So if that just gives you an idea of the work they're doing. Danbury Township, who's the busiest, is 1,552 outside of the sheriff's office, and they're at 4,706. So that's everything from traffic stops, business checks, calls for service that somebody calls in and needs help, them getting out of their cars, walking properties, walking the village parks, whatever that might be. So I've got a lot of numbers. I won't bore you with all of them. And the Ohio Collaborative, I could talk about in detail, but that is a certification process that we have standards we have to meet to show, one, we're doing fair and equal policing, and also it gives you as a citizen a ton of transparency into what we're doing. So it's a lot of work. Sheriff wanted us to do this, and initially there were moans and groans. We all love it now. It's great that we have these numbers to stand on when we get asked questions.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Captain Leist, hang on a second, for putting these numbers together. I asked him to do this Thursday night after the last concert for the meeting today. So yesterday, his whole day was putting those numbers together, so thank you, Ken. A couple things real quick. Our calls for service numbers, yeah, they're 4,700. They're not 4,700 calls. It's not you guys calling us 4,700 times. Every time our deputies get out of the car, though, to do something, it's a call for service. So if we do your house checks, and we check your house over the winter 50 times, that's 50 calls for service. If we don't document those, then you don't know that we're doing anything. And so we have to show the numbers to justify that we're there and that we're actually doing something. Otherwise, if we don't document every single thing we do, then at the end of the year, you're gonna go, these guys only did 100 things. Oh, but we're working our butts off 24/7. So you should know what we're doing. But the nice thing is we don't just give you that 4,700 number. Every call for service, whether it's a house check, a business check, a traffic stop, a burglary call, a rape, anything, it's all broken apart so you can see the number of each and everything that we did. So we try to identify each. Cap hit on the Ohio Collaborative. The Ohio Collaborative was an effort begun by the state of Ohio to ensure equal policing throughout Ohio by law enforcement, but also to ensure that the standards of law enforcement continue to be elevated so that we're not lowering our standards and doing crappy police work. So that's why the Ohio Collaborative is very important. There are 2 agencies in Ottawa County that are Ohio Collaborative compliant, and it's the Sheriff's Office and Elmore Police Department. And now the Ohio Collaborative has begun a thing that's called Ohio Collaborative Accreditation. So they are accrediting law enforcement agencies across the state of Ohio. So if anyone has ever looked at what accreditation does in law enforcement, it holds you to a very high standard, and it also holds you to continue that standard if you want to continue your accreditation. In 2024, the Ohio Collaborative picked their top 10 law enforcement agencies across Ohio to become accredited and go through the process. So out of over 3,000 law enforcement agencies, there were 10 last year that were accredited. In 2025, they picked another 20 across the state of Ohio. So at the end of 2025, there will only be 30 agencies accredited by the state of Ohio out of over 3,000. The Ottawa County Sheriff's Office was one of them picked for 2025 to be accredited. So I'm super proud of our deputies, captains, lieutenants, chief deputy, everyone, for making sure that we are compliant with the state of Ohio. So that's a huge honor for us. I can tell you 5 years ago, when someone said the word accreditation, I cringed because we were nowhere near that capability. But we have a guy in our office that the commissioners gave me the money to hire or to promote. His name is Jeff Griffin, and he is my director of training and compliance. He makes sure that all of our training is up to speed and that all of our deputies have the right training and the training required by federal law and state law. He makes sure that we are compliant with, you know that we have to have an ADA officer in our agency. Every law enforcement agency has to have an ADA officer. Make sure that you're compliant with all ADA laws. Have to have a limited English speaking representative. Every agency has to have one designated. I guarantee you 90% of law enforcement agencies don't have that. We have that, that's why we're compliant. Those are the things. Real quick, and I apologize, one thing I got ahead of myself when I started talking. You met Captain Leist. Most of you probably know Lieutenant Arnold, who runs our Put-in-Bay division, and back in the back in plain clothes today is Chief Deputy Brad York. Brad's on light duty, he had a hip replaced a few weeks ago. So, now, if you guys have questions, I'll gladly answer your questions. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Gabriela Kaplan. I'm a medical doctor.
And ma'am, just so you know, you're in violation of a temporary protection order because you're within the wrong distance of
Yes,
Lieutenant
but my
Arnold.
attorney told me that if he is in an official meeting, I am entitled to be here.
Okay, we'll hang on.
He's
hang
not
on,
having
hang
a cup
on,
of coffee. He
Hang
is
on.
here in official
Hang
business.
on. We are going to document this and we're gonna send
That's
it to the
fine.
prosecutor,
That's fine.
okay? We'll let him determine that and you may be
That's fine.
charged.
Fine.
Go ahead with your question.
So, as a doctor, I believe in prevention. And I also am a very good Christian, and I believe that God gave us one head, because if we had two heads, they might be disagreeing. And I think the major problem we have in Put-in-Bay is we have two heads, the village and the township. And I think it's up to us to put for a vote that we should have a special legislation changed so that we can all vote once we know how we're gonna be saving money by having one island, one government, so we don't duplicate or triplicate our efforts. Vote for it and become one island and vote and have one police department, not two heads. All right, so as prevention, I also believe, and you told me that you are the officer in charge of this whole Ottawa County, we're part of.
The sheriff.
Whatever, excuse me, I'm not too versed on this police business. Prevention, you have people coming from the mainland. A lot of people are coming from areas, there's a lot of drugs, and now Put-in-Bay is known to be a drug place, absolutely no question. All right, so we're attracting a lot of drugs. If you just had a dog who doesn't even know how to sniff, and an officer next to this dog, it's going to discourage a lot of people to even setting themselves in the boat, okay? So that is a very big flag that we should encourage, to have dogs and officers, so that people just don't come here. And make the island so it's safe, and this is why we actually are paying double the amount of money to have the second set of police, which is now the township, because we are fragile. I come from Cleveland. Most of you, because I'm 78 years old, okay? Most of us heard about the mistake in the lake. The mistake in the lake is that the river, the Cuyahoga River, caught on fire. And we have been the laughing stock of the whole entire United States. Cleveland could have grown to be a tremendous big city, but now it's nothing, it's dwindling, you're losing people. The same can happen to Put-in-Bay. If some horrible crime happens here, people are not gonna wanna come here. If the word gets by the news media that we are into drugs, it's gonna discourage the good people, and we're gonna lose. We are all here, and I believe that we're here because we love Put-in-Bay. I love Put-in-Bay so much I live here full time. Let's not happen, let's prevent. Let's join together, let's have one police, let's save our money, and let's prevent them from even coming in the first place. That's all I have to say, and of course I'm gonna be arrested because I have a restraining order from Officer Arnold. Because one day I stopped at his house because I wanted to know where somebody lives. And when I knocked on his door, I'd never seen him in my life. I said, can I ask a question? He says, I'm off duty. He never wanted to know what the question was. I have never met him before. And then he said I was trespassing, and then he said I was vandalizing, and since then I'm in a restraining order. I cannot go to the public library while he's working in the school without having a restraining order. I have to have a lawyer all the time. 2 days ago, I had to go to the mainland. Do you think I'd be speeding with 200 police there in Langham Road? I had, of course, my passes. and I'm going, weaving in and out, there's nobody coming from Miller Boat Line, everybody's going to the concert, and I'm weaving at 0 miles an hour, and I get to the boat, and I remember, oh my God, I don't have the keys for my car in the mainland, I don't like to bring my car, I just have another one there. So I go back home, and I get my keys. And I'm enjoying the music, and the girls with the boots and the hats, and it was fun. I'm looking at it, I have half an hour to make it to the boat. What happens? Our officer stops me. He doesn't give me a ticket, but he stops. He says, why are you going here so many times? I said, because I forgot my keys to my car. I don't know about you, but I'm losing sometimes my memory. Sometimes I forget my keys. Forgive me, it's part of life, okay? So I forgot my keys. So I went back, and he says to me, you're not supposed to be in this road. Why are they treating us, the owners, like we were some criminals? I said, sir, I have permission. He says, I want to make sure that you do not come to this road here today again. When I came back from the mainland, I was arrested, and I have a citation, and I have to go to court because I was not supposed to be in this road. Is that the kind of police that we want? And that is why they don't want me to be here, because they don't want people to know what they're really doing. The numbers are fantastic, but we, the people, are not getting service, and we're wasting a lot of money, and we are having an accident waiting to happen. The moment the TV catches of somebody getting killed and all not, it's gonna kill Put-in Bay like the mistake in the lake. So think about it. Take my message home. Thank you.
Just,
Did you have a question?
I'm sorry, how did you turn this back on?
Slides to the right.
I can't break it, I've got it over to the right, I think.
Yeah. Down again, okay. Speak up best you can.
I will,
Yeah.
thank you. Just to clarify, you did not get arrested, you got a citation. Mr. Parker, yes, sir?
Roger Parker, Mitchell Road, been here all my life, on and off.
Mostly on.
Mostly on. Had to call the sheriff's department more times than I wanted to because of a noisy neighbor, but the department's always been incredibly responsive and polite and professional. So I wanna say I appreciate that, and, hope someday that the situation can be remedied in permanence. But, I do have a question about the many officers that were here for the bash at the Bay. Did the promoter share in the extraordinary cost of that?
Pays for 100% of it, other than our deputies that are assigned here and paid by the taxpayer.
Okay, good to know. I used to work at Summit Motorsports Park, and I know they,
Yeah.
shared it.
They hire off-duty, yes.
Alright.
Now, as far as our deputies, just so you know, so we bring a few of our I think we had like 10 of us, of Ottawa County deputies that worked at that venue also. And that is also not paid by the taxpayers. That's paid by a federal grant that we have here, Operation Stone Guard. So there was no additional taxpayer money used. We would not do that.
We had 11, sir, but you weren't paid, obviously.
Oh yeah, Cap says we have 11, but I don't get paid, so let's, believe me, I'm used to it. Yes, ma'am.
Sally Stuckey, 355 West Shore Boulevard. Is there a general philosophy of giving a warning versus giving a citation on a traffic offense? I mean, it seems like you're moving more towards giving warnings versus citing people.
And we do that, countywide.
Right.
Our primary responsibility as a sheriff's office is not traffic enforcement, but we do obviously enforce traffic laws. And there's no written standard as to you have to issue a citation for this. We believe in deputy discretion, officer discretion, and we want them to have that discretion. If we stop you for, if we say you have to, everyone that speeds gets a citation. Well, everyone that leaves here today is probably gonna get a ticket because you're gonna be doing at least 1 mile an hour over speed limit.
Oh, I won't.
You want?
Make sure you're out of the roadway.
She blocks everyone.
Aaron just said, make sure you're not on the roadway. Is that a good
I
ticket?
walk pretty
you're-
fast too.
But I will tell
I
you,
just want people to walk on the right side.
officer discretion is a big part of it. And also, we think a lot, at the sheriff's office at least. Now, please understand, the guy standing back there has the record for traffic tickets from the sheriff's office of all times. How many in 1 year, Chief? 525 tickets in 1 year he wrote. Now we only work you work 5 days on, so it's not in 365 days either. So he wrote a lot of tickets. But we also, our philosophy as an administration is presence, visual presence is a big deterrent. That's why we do these house checks also. Like Cap said, if you're seeing a cruiser in a car 3-4 times a day, or a cruiser in a driveway 3-4 times a day, there's a really good chance they're gonna go find another house to break into. And we also feel that way about traffic enforcement. A lot of times we'll just sit along the highways running radar, and if we see someone, 55-mile-an-hour zone and someone's doing 62 miles an hour, we're not stopping them. If they're doing 65, 67, we're gonna stop them and probably give them a warning. And that warning could be just as beneficial as a citation. And then I'll get to a point where if they're doing 70, in my mind, they should get a citation. Unless they give me a really good reason why they shouldn't have one, which sometimes we get. I've had people taking someone to the hospital. Well, they're not gonna get a ticket for doing 70 and a 55. Instead, I'm gonna say, get behind me, let's get you there. And it's about being good community members, but also enforcing the laws, enforcing traffic, and I know you're probably asking about over here. One of our big things is, again, like Cap said, we don't want injury crashes. We don't want fatal crashes over here. Those are our biggies. And that was big for you guys, because we did it. We pulled the aisle on when we first came over here. So tell us what do we need to do? One of the big things was the injury accidents and traffic violations. Right now, I'll tell you, there are some cab companies over here that hate us. I'm telling you, they flat out hate us
Why do they hate you?
because we issue them citations.
Oh, good, because
They
So
need
if
it.
you like see a golf
They need
cart
it.
that's overloaded,
Yes, ma'am.
do you stop them and make them?
I'll let Lieutenant Arnold answer that question because he's the one that works over here all the time.
Thank you, Sheriff.
How everybody doing? So golf carts overloaded, they're getting stopped, they're getting off, they're gonna walk. If they're intoxicated, they're gonna get OVI. If they're issued any open containers, they'll get an open container ticket. Most of the time they're probably intoxicated and whatnot, all of the above what I just noted, but we do stop them. If they're polite, we're polite, just tell them to get off. Sometimes we tell them go drop the people off, come back, pick up the rest of your guests and go about your way, or try to go get another, see if you go rent a bigger golf cart for the day. But like Sheriff says, officer discretion, but we do stop them for safety reasons and make them reevaluate their thoughts.
That was so polite.
So that's about it.
Yes, ma'am.
What about seatbelts? Do you enforce seatbelts? Are they required on the passengers in the back seats?
I
or-
would say I'm concerned with the fact.
Because I get concerned about, I've seen several people fall off of golf carts when they turn corners and
Most of your golf carts don't have seatbelts in them, and they're not
they
required.
don't?
Nope. And they're
I
not
think in the
required.
village, we require them, don't we?
You may
Yeah.
with the village ordinance, the state law does not require it because it's an underspeed vehicle. By state law, I will tell you that golf carts are not supposed to go over 20 miles an hour. I will tell you, the other day I was on a golf cart and got passed by one doing about 50 over.
Ours only goes 16, I think, is high.
When a golf cart gets inspected by our office to get licensure, now the ones over here in the village that are licensed, we don't inspect every one of those because they don't come to us. But if someone comes to us for a golf cart inspection, as per the state law, then we make sure, we don't allow them to drive it and then us clock it with a radar, because obviously they're not gonna push the pedal all the way down. So we drive it, and we'll have a deputy drive it, and the other deputy clock it with the radar, and we ensure that that golf cart will not go over 20 miles an hour. That's just part of, and because this isn't the only place in Ottawa County that allows golf carts. So we have to just be consistent across the county. Yes, sir?
That's kind of a follow through with my infamous scooter thing. Basically, one of the gentlemen there mentioned the fact that that many of the kids that in school and so forth, they would be cited and so forth there. And I just thought, maybe it'd be a good idea to have some kind of a class or a program
Right.
established and so forth there, that maybe some of these kids, and I shouldn't just say kids, because believe me, it isn't just the kids. But
It's
at least
usually not the
who may
kids.
not know any better because they've never been taught. You know, the adults, we know better than that.
But here's the problem, and I see this on scooters, whether it's in the city of Cleveland, all these cities rent these scooters now. And you see them laying around the streets in these cities. The battery dies and they just dump it. And it looks terrible. And it junks up these cities, but that's their problem. We're not in the city. But the thing is, no one pays attention to traffic laws when they're on these scooters. And if they're on the public roadway, they still have to abide by traffic laws. And they should be cited or at least stopped and warned. They should abide by the same laws that you do in a golf cart, you do in a side-by-side, and you do in a car. Or a bicycle. Yes, Mayor. So they all have to abide by road laws. And I don't know what the village ordinance is, but I know like in the city of Port Clinton, you can't ride bicycles on the sidewalk. You can't ride scooters on the sidewalk. So I don't know what the village ordinance is here, but that's something maybe the village could look at also, is keep the scooters off the sidewalks, keep them on the roads. And then the chief has the teeth that he can enforce those traffic laws on them when they're on the roadways and driving them, operating them inappropriately. Yes, sir.
In this whole thing, we haven't really talked, nobody's ever mentioned drugs or anything like that.
Can't hear you.
In this whole conversation today, the one thing we haven't talked about is drugs. And I wondered, I keep hearing, oh, there's a taxi driver that is dealing, and we all know that there's other, obviously, problem. What are in those statistics, where are the drugs arrests stand?
What do you have for drug arrest, Cap, anything?
I know this year we had a DUI related drug arrest.
Did we get some cocaine out of that car?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
we got quite a bit.
Other than that, I'd have to look at exact. I don't show any overdose this year.
No, overdose are down a lot, and a lot of our the drugs will fall under the OBI also.
If they're operating
Yes.
while impaired
Yes,
on drugs.
yes.
But if we
They don't
find
make a
anything,
distinction between booze and drugs when you arrest them in an OVI?
no,
No.
it's operating a vehicle while impaired, whether it be drugs or alcohol by state law. As far as drug investigations, I will tell you that, and I don't want to speak on behalf of the chief, but I think I can on this one. His office, my office, if we had a major drug investigation that needed to be done over here, we would call the Ottawa County Prosecutor's Office Drug Task Force. We work very closely with them, and they do the major drug investigations, and they have people and connections that have that undercover capability, the equipment to do so. God bless you. The devices that are necessary for the recording while undercover, things like that, that's their specialty. And that's
Have we done that
call it.
over here?
We have.
Have we ever found anything?
We have.
Good to know.
But a lot of that we're not gonna talk about because
I understand.
of ongoing investigations also. Because we're also not going to, the terms they use, burn a snitch. But I know there are investigations that have occurred, and there are investigations that are occurring. And we also partner with the federal government and have their capabilities also, and we use some of their technology.
Have they come to you about fentanyl, the big, no?
The feds, no.
That statistically, that number went back up, but still, statistically, what we're seeing across the county and the region, the methamphetamines are still
That's the biggest drug
that's
right
the
now.
biggest issue still. Fentanyl has made a little bit of a recurrence, but nothing like it was in 2013 to 2015.
Your contract with the township expires in December.
Mhm.
When will you be presenting a new proposal?
Within the next 2 weeks.
And back to the drug thing, would you please clarify, public marijuana use?
what the rulings or what the laws are about that?
Well, state law allows for the use of marijuana now,
Right,
whether it be recreational or medicinal.
is that public?
It isn't public.
See what I know?
And I will tell you, and I'm gonna be very straightforward with you right now. I don't know all the drug laws. I don't work the street anymore, so I don't know a lot. If I had to arrest someone for an OVI today, it would take me 8 hours to do an OVI arrest because I've been off the road. So when I left the road as a sergeant, I was a detective for 8 years. I was a captain of operations for 6 years, so that's 14 years off the road. I retired for a year, and then I've been the sheriff for 14 years. So I've been off the road 29 years. Okay, so when I go out and I make a traffic stop, I give a lot of warnings. Or I call one of my guys and say, hey, you have a problem because this guy's drunk, come and arrest him. Because it would take me forever to do it because I just haven't done it for so long. So I'm going to defer to Captain Weiss because he's much more in tune with these laws today.
So with that usage, I will tell you that the state of Ohio, before any of these laws were passed, the state crime lab who tests our drugs, because remember, we have to have a positive test before we can convict you. So just because we find a white powder and somebody says it's cocaine, it could be cocaine and fentanyl, it could be cocaine and meth. I've seen it where it's baby formula, but they think they have cocaine. So we have to get those tests done. About 5 years ago, the state of Ohio said, we are not testing marijuana anymore unless it's over, I think it was 3 pounds. So if you find someone with 3 pounds, we will test that marijuana. At one point they said, now it's 10 pounds. So we kind of all saw this change coming, that this was gonna become a reality with the marijuana being recreational and medicinal. So while there are laws that protect where and how you can use these products, keep in mind that I can probably drive down Langram Road from the hardware to the Miller boat line on a Saturday at 1 p.m. and smell really good, strong marijuana 5 to 6 times.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's coming from a house, a car, or otherwise. When we all started, you knew the smell of marijuana. I could get behind a car when I was working the road, and if I had my air conditioning on, I could smell it.
Yeah.
Sure. It's like a cigarette or a cigar.
Right. Yeah, cigars or anything else.
Well, and to piggyback on that, please understand. So I said you can, but I don't mean by law you can, because here's the problem. By law, whose law? Because the state legislature has changed the medical marijuana, the recreational marijuana statute as it progressed through being approved so much, and they water it down, and then they change it again before they ever pass anything. That honestly, if you talk to other than prosecuting attorneys, no one's going to understand the drug laws in Ohio. The marijuana law, let me rephrase that. And when we talk about not testing until 10 pounds worth, you also can't have a drug dog anymore that sniffs for marijuana. Because if it sniffs for marijuana, do you know what hemp is?
Yeah.
It's just it's a marijuana with less THC in it, basically. So if that dog is smelling for marijuana and hits on it, well, maybe they had hemp in the car. Now all of a sudden, your whole search is null and void. We have one of our dogs left that smells for marijuana. The other 3 don't smell for marijuana. So they recently had where was that package? Was that at the Cleveland airport?
Correct.
It was all the way at the Cleveland airport. They had a package with
212 pounds of marijuana.
212 pounds of marijuana that the federal government had up there. They don't have any dogs that sniff for marijuana anymore. We sent our dog that sniffs marijuana still to the Cleveland airport. He hit on this package. They got 212 pounds of marijuana out of it. So it is so convoluted with marijuana anymore. Like Aaron said, I mean during the concert, you'd smell it and you walk by and you're like, okay, which people out of these 300 people was smelling marijuana? And is it really worth is it worth the squeeze? Because how much juice are you gonna get? At the very most, it's a minor misdemeanor citation. At the very most. And
if you're operating an automobile or a golf cart?
No. If you're operating and you're smoking, there's a possibility you're gonna be impaired.
Okay.
Now it becomes a problem.
That's where the OBI falls into
Yes,
place.
that's your OVI that we're talking about, Jeff.
Okay.
But again, It's a minor misdemeanor. You've got to look at the difference, and it's just. And I'm going to be very honest in here. If I'm dealing with someone who's drunk or someone who smoked a little weed, I'd take that deal. I'll deal with the guy smoking weed because all he wants is Doritos. The other guy's going to want to fight me. I'll take the weed guy every day. So, yes, ma'am. Way in the back.
I was gonna ask, if you physically see somebody smoking while driving a golf cart, you can pull them over.
They're gonna, yeah, but here's the problem. Are they smoking a cigarette or smoking a joint?
Or they smoking a vape pen.
They're all
Vape,
or a vape
or
pen.
they smoking a regular
A
vape pen,
vape
you
pen,
don't know.
because these vape pens have THC in them now too. So how do you know? And
But the
it just,
vape pen with THC is illegal to.
it is, but how do you stop them? You're saying stop them for smoking it. If I see you go by and you're hitting a vape pen, how do I know you've got one that's got THC in it?
Because it smells.
Can I
It won't smell any different because it has different odors. They have different flavors.
I want to jump in on that as somebody that used to work a lot of drug interdiction previously. So with the passing of all these bills, the marijuana usage from gummies to drinks, there's beer with it in it. It's exotic. These vape pens are flavored. There's companies now that are out that are treating it so it doesn't smell like marijuana.
Imagine that.
It has become very exotic, but also with that, when you legalize, we don't have a grow house anymore in the east end of Toledo. The stuff that they are producing, you would see a bud on a marijuana plant that's this big. I've seen some at some of these dispensaries that are the size of my fist. So they can do that. There's more science and more involved. So somebody going by alone with a vape pen smoking, how do I know it's not somebody that drove by 2 carts before them, or somebody smoking on a front porch, or if we drive by 10 carts, can't pull them all over. And if we do, now we're infringing on somebody's rights. Just to stop somebody on well, I think it was you. He's going to get some nasty phone calls if we're wrong, and you might start talking about some of us getting days off for work. Right. Yeah. So it's tricky. I will say this, when it became this way, and also just like with the scooters, the law has not caught up with all the technology and some of these things. The scooters, the second that something happens and somebody gets a call in Columbus, Ohio, a state or probably a House of Representative, and says, hey, we had this happen, my child was killed, my grandson, there'll be some changes. These scooters are fairly new. And all these scooters, just like the marijuana companies, are trying to outdo each other. So they make a faster scooter, a bigger scooter, an off-road scooter, just like the marijuana companies want the best THC, the best advertising. So it's a competition. Eventually, unfortunately, not throwing legislatures under the bus, the laws will catch up, but it's all pretty new yet.
So when they write those laws, they'll be extremely convoluted, and no one will understand them for 6 years. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm concerned with this whole idea, do we have to have a law, or is there a way? I live down Land Grove by the airport, and I walk or ride my bicycle to the post office a lot. There's a particular cab company that passes anywhere and in any intersection and at speed all the time. There's no law, and you're not gonna be sitting there, and you're not gonna be able to is there any under the table way to try to ameliorate this problem? Maybe they're not the only cab company, but it's the one that I notice all the time doing it.
Well, I can tell you that right before we came here, I was sitting at the substation with Lieutenant looking at one of the videos, because we were body cameras, and a video of one of the local cab company drivers who has been cited how many times in the last month? 3?
The one yesterday that we dealt with?
The one that you showed me a video of.
Twice.
What did he say when and I don't mean to break, I apologize for the language. What did he say when you guys walked away from his van?
Called my deputy a fucking bitch.
Yep. Pardon our language. But that's what we deal with every day.
But there's no way to take that person who's been cited 5 times now.
It's up to the court. It's up to the court. That's why we issue citations, and it's up to the judge at that point. Here's the thing, once he gets that second moving violation within a 12-month period, he has to appear in court. Then it's up to the judge.
So we are dependent on you guys spotting these cabs and making.
Oh yeah, and we'll keep getting called names, we're okay with that. We're used to that, we've got pretty thick skin, but we're going to continue to enforce those laws. We've got one guy that we cited, you cited him, chief, and he got cited over here by the state patrol when they were here. And he told the state patrol, he goes, oh, deputies cite me all the time, I get out of the tickets. No, he doesn't, he pays a waiver every time, and he goes to court. He hasn't won one yet. Yes, ma'am?
I should say, to her point, okay, if she's walking on the road, as far as, you know, citizen reporting something like that, if she sees the cab, it's a problem, she observes something illegal, she has a license plate, can she call you and you can, no, you have to see it yourself.
It's gotta be an on-site arrest, on-site citation.
Can they lose their business license if it's a crime?
Well, I don't know.
In the village, they
Parker?
can, we do have
Okay.
a taxi cab ordinance, and, if they
I would-
reach the max, they're.
I would think it's under the Department of Commerce, I would imagine, from the state of Ohio, and I would imagine they have pretty stringent laws, so I would think so. But again, it's going to depend on the enforcement by the cab company themselves, because if we write Joe Schmo, who's a taxi driver, 5 citations, we're not writing the taxi company. We can't write them. We have to write the taxi driver. That's where the village has more teeth on their village ordinance. But Mayor, the question with that is, how do you know what taxi company did it, and how do you enforce that against the taxi company that you can hold anything accountable against the taxi company themselves?
I mean, it's about it's a big ordinance, so I don't have it all.
So if I'm driving taxi and I get 3 citations, how do you?
That goes against the driver, you're right.
It doesn't
does not
go, yeah,
against
so that would
the
not be
driver.
correct. You wouldn't be able to do that against the company, because it
There
goes
might
against the
be
driver,
some
right?
things in there that we can't.
That's against the company. Yeah, we wouldn't be able to do anything against the company. That would be against the driver. Yes, ma'am?
I have a question, in her, comment, if she, you know, she's endangering her life by these, taxis. If she films this, could this be used, and then you come over and you say, look, this is what happened, and you can.
We have video evidence, we can absolutely enforce it.
They go too fast.
You're right. Well, and you're not walking down the street with your video playing anyways. I get that. But yeah, that would be enforceable.
Again, in the spirit of prevention, I strongly believe that all the companies that rent golf carts must be told that we are still in the United States and we still respect traffic, but they don't. I live in Airline Road and I see all these little kids, they cannot reach the pedals and they're driving. This should be something that if I take a picture of that golf cart, you should be able to cite the father or whoever, because it's just unbelievable, these little kids just driving. So please have the companies warn them, they cannot have their kids.
All the companies are warned. It's not the companies.
Not only
It's-
that, but you know, I pay over $6,000 for my, Clinton Bay house in taxes. And for the past 3 years, we have these humongous holes. We don't have enough money to patch the holes. In a way, it's good because they're like stops. People cannot go running fast. But you know, this is bad on my axles and things like that. Why don't we have them pay a fine for having these people who are going into, the reason I have so many holes is because although it says private road, people don't care. They say, oh, let's go and take a look at the houses. It's the sightseeing, the rodeo drive thing. They don't care, they don't. So if we, the owners, will start taking pictures, can we contact the local?
Well, you're on Airline Drive. You're on Airline Drive. It's a private road. So, well, hang on. I understand. Even though it's a private road, we can still enforce unlicensed drivers on that property. Here's why. By state law, as long as other vehicles are allowed to drive on that roadway, any person driving a vehicle on that roadway is required to have a driver's license. So we can still enforce that, you're absolutely correct. But as far as the fine goes, the fine does not go back to the township. The fine goes to the state of Ohio. And part of it goes to the court costs, goes to the court. So again, I don't, as far as the funding, I would not be able to answer that for you. Okay, I can only answer the enforcement side of it. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So what's the status of the retraining of your police doggos?
He's being trained, he's trained, basically. We're just waiting for the new handler. We're gonna get the person in place. Storm will be back on the
The
island.
new person isn't in place yet?
Not yet. Yep. Yes, sir.
Is there any way we can get the golf cart companies to give some sort of notice to the drivers that the directional signals do not turn on? I know that some people are reading. If there's some way, maybe from divine intervention.
I would like the golf cart companies to hand out an entire booklet of what they should and shouldn't do. Because there are a number of things besides the turn signals also they should be doing. Yes, sir.
My second question is, it's like beating a dead horse. We're on Meacham Road, and that's been turned into somewhat of a racetrack. And we just see cars going up and down there, obviously speeding. And I talked about having a four-way sign at Putin Bay Road in Meacham, but the traffic engineer said that they can't do it for some reason or other. I just wonder if we could have more patrol there. And then, and the other issue is
Absolutely.
the signs that say that the cross traffic does not stop. If that could be more evident than the signs that are there now.
We don't have any say in the signs. The signage we don't have any say in. That would be the county engineer
Maybe you could tell them.
or the township. But as far as the stepped up patrols, we absolutely can. Other questions?
Anything else? We're getting close to our time.
I have an amusing question, maybe,
Maybe.
for the chief.
See, we're laughing already.
We've seen you out in front of the pizza place on a Saturday, not in uniform, but enjoying the sunshine or whatever. Is this undercover work, or is it a visual presence, or are you a pizza junkie?
Pizza place.
Yeah, Frosty's.
I don't really. I don't want to say anything. I don't really eat there. I really don't. Oh, and for breakfast, and you catch me for breakfast like once a month. But
On a Saturday afternoon, just sitting out
I'm
enjoying
not
the
paying
sunshine?
that price for that pizza. I'm sorry. I go to Sofo's in Toledo and I bring my own great Italian recipes home here. No, I can outcook most pizza places.
Okay, so then what is?
Yeah, if it works for you, undercover. If that's what me saying. Yes, I agree with you. Yes, I'm undercover. As much undercover as much as I can be undercover on this island. Really?
That would be the point. Your visual presence is meaningful. Are you getting paid for that?
I'm getting paid to be out and about. I do. The mayor and I had this talk a couple weeks ago. Somebody even questioned me because I was out riding around out of uniform. They were like, "Why are you riding around out of uniform?" Because honestly, I was just checking on my officers and checking on. I communicate better out of uniform sometimes, I think. But there is no plan or purpose. I'm just being me. And as far as stats, my captain had to go home sick last night. He was sick. We are over 4,000 for 6 months also. I just wanted to address that. And I'm not trying to compete by any means. The collaboration, I attended the collaboration meeting last June, Mayor, that was down in Columbus, to get accredited. Next, that is our goal this winter. I've actually already met with the state. Our goal is to also become accredited. So, and what the cool part about the accreditation is, and the sheriff will attest to it, it doesn't matter whether you got a 300-man department or you got a 10-man department. It all works the way that they've set it up so everybody can become accredited throughout the state. So it's a lot of work, but it's a challenge for my guys. To also speak about the size of the department, a lot of you may not know, we went from, I initially started here in 2020, we were 4 full-timers. We're now up to 8. With this, if we get the grant for the community policing or whatever you want to call it, officer, that'll take us to 9. After the fundraiser next week, we may have 10 when we get our K9. So just to let you know where we're at. So, thank you guys for allowing us to speak.
First of all, Chief, Sheriff, deputies, thank you for being here. Thank you for your service and giving us your time today. Thank you. And hope to see you Wednesday. We're adjourned.